Hello guys, I hope wherever you're watching us from you are having a great time. This is AfriPost and welcome to today's video. Now for many years, Africa has been regarded as a continent of poor countries, a continent that is populated by people who are less worthy of being regarded as human beings, because if you look at how our countries in Africa have been portrayed by the Western education system, we are called third world countries and countries that are not rich in any way. In fact, they want everybody to believe that Africa does not have anything of value that it can offer to the world. But in recent years, many African scholars have come out to disapprove Western idea of Africa, and they are coming to write their own story. Just as it has been said in the saying that until the lion knows how to write, the story of the jungle will always praise the hunter. And for many years, the story of Africa has been told by whites, it has been told by Europeans, and it has been told by Americans. Yet, we as Africans have not been allowed to project our ideas to the global space. And this is something that is changing, and I really appreciate the scholars that are coming in to really change the story of Africa. In today's video, I want us to talk about the origin of humanity and the role black race has been playing in this world since the inception of the world as we know it. I want us to listen to this speech and then react to it at the end. Let's watch.
Them in Africa, that pink African is the beginning of the European. Now, the pink African also started to undergo certain changes, like ice produces a narrow nose. The parts of Africa, you have Africans with narrow noses too, because dry heat produces the narrow nose. So that man is one. There are no races really. You have the African as the beginning of the human race, but the others are mutations. They're not races in the true sense of the word. Race is a social concept. That was to come later. And after the slave trade, when Europe conquered Africa, etc., then blackness and color became associated with being in a low position, so that therefore colors and races became associated with certain things. Those are things that are going to pass as we recover our history and transform ourselves. But initially, you have the pink African who becomes the European. He undergoes certain changes over a period of time. For example, in the ice, it's important to have long hair to protect the neck from cold. In heat, it's important that you have short hair follicles so that heat can escape. These things have nothing to do with inferiority or superiority. They have to do with environmental needs. Environmental necessities, environmental imperatives. So that you would find in Africa, some people have narrow noses where there's dry heat. Some people have thinner lips, some people have fuller lips, some people have close cropped hair, some people have wavy hair, etc. This has nothing to do with inferiority or superiority. It doesn't even have anything to do with beauty. Because the first great Europeans who met the first great Africans, the Greeks, when they went to Egypt and they met the blacks, they thought black was beautiful. It was quite the opposite, because the first whites were so startled by black achievement in Egypt and so many whites came to study in Africa, in Egypt, that they associated great intelligence and great beauty with blackness. They actually began to take black gods, because the first, for example, Europeans started to worship Isis, the black goddess. They started to have temples to Isis. Eventually, later on, Horus, who was the son of Isis and the son of Osiris, the male and female aspects of God, Europe initially worshipped the black Christ. So that this kind of racism that later occurred after the slave trade, this assumption about blackness associated with inferiority, that's a later thing in history. And you see, we are overwhelmed at the moment by that period, so that we have forgotten what really happened in the history of the world.
So the first human beings on Earth, when do they appear?
They appear, we have found a man just last year. We found an African taking a walk with his child 4 million years ago.
Okay, now
we found this complete skull. We found the whole skull. There's absolutely no question. He is not as developed as we are today.
Okay, that would be hominid.
Yes, he is the first hominid. But modern man with our brain, occurs about 140 to 150,000 years ago in Africa. We have been able to trace it. We have traced it through the blood that the mother of mankind. And this is not Lucy, because we found a creature we call Lucy 3.5 million years ago, an African too. But the first mother of mankind, a black woman, is about 140,000 years old. We've been able to trace it through the genetic structure. We've been able to establish clearly that the first human, true modern human with our brain case, etc., is an African woman about 140,000 years old. She has all the genetics, all the genes rather, of the human race. Then you have the African fanning out. African goes up into Europe. The transformation occurs about pink skin, and then the ice would produce the long hair, you know, the retention of long hair or the long hair follicles, etc. Some people in the ice remain black. For example, the Eskimos, many of the Eskimos remained black because they had another way of dealing with the problem. Instead of having pink skin where melanin is not active, enabling the sun rays to come through, the tangential sun to come through and feed, vitalize the body, the Eskimos had fish oils. They had seals and things like that, so it was necessary for skin change.
What is the fish oil? What does it have to do with anything?
The what?
The fish oil.
Okay, that would provide the vitamin D that was necessary to vitalize the bones.
Oh, okay.
You see, that vitamin D was coming from the sun. Therefore, if you have very black skin, and that in that ice age, it's easy in temperate zones. Anybody could exist in this zone. We're not talking about temperate zones. We're talking about real ice. There were parts of Europe where ice was half a mile thick. Okay, so that it became an advantage to have the inactive melanin, so that the tangential sunlight, the slanted sunlight, which is less than African sunlight, could penetrate the skin. Okay, so that these are things that have to do with environment. They have nothing to do with superiority or inferiority.
And so for approximately how many years was the world populated exclusively and only by Africans, black Africans?
Okay,
black skinned.
if you're talking about the modern, the last
sapiens,
African, okay, because you see, the African is not only the first hominid, he's also the first human. Okay, the hominid is not completely human like us, but then comes the first human with our brain case. That's also African. And this begins to change about 55,000 years ago in Europe, where you get Africoid types becoming Caucasoid types, where you have what is called as Cro-Magnon man. This is the what we crudely call today white man, as against what we crudely call today black man. Okay, they're really just human beings. Okay, but they undergo superficial changes, skin changes, etc. And later on, you would have other changes like the narrow nose in ice versus the broader nose in heat. But you'd have the narrow nose also in dry heat, so that you would have superficial changes in the face of man, related nothing to his intelligence, his brain, or anything, related to the environment, the amount of sun, the kind of foods you eat in particular environments, the kind of qualities of heat, qualities of cold, etc.
So this first baby, put it on that level, this first child probably would have had kinky hair.
Oh yes, yes, because that was necessary. Okay, in the climate in which it evolved, that was necessary. Curled or kinky hair, that would be necessary. Okay, and black skin would also be necessary, because the albino, as I say, like the not the stabilized pink, which came later, but the albino in my country dies by the time you're 30, because the sun would ravage you. Okay.
Just briefly, if you would, just explain what melanin does. If you
okay, melanin is a protects the body in a certain way.
It's the pigment that gives us our color.
Yes. It's a pigment that gives you black or brown color, but it also protects you to some extent from the sun's rays. Okay, like for example, in parts of South Africa, in parts of Australia, etc., we find lots of pink people have cancer. Skin cancer. Okay, so that if you were living in a tropical climate, especially if it's an extreme tropical climate, it is very advantageous to have black or dark brown skin. Okay. What we have also found is that we have misunderstandings about body shapes and face shapes, etc. The African has 6 faces. They don't all look alike. They may all be black or brown, but they have all sorts of faces. Like, for example, you have the Somali. People thought that these were mixed people. These are pure-blooded Africans, no mixture. They're in a different zone.
They thought they were mixed because...
Yes, because they may have a narrow nose, for example. When many Africans have narrow noses because they're in dry heat. Okay, so that people made all sorts of stupid mistakes. It's only now we begin to realize you have ranges of African, you have ranges of other types, but the African has more ranges than any other people.
Now, from that clip, I think for me as an African, it really opens my eyes. And I think my perception about Africa and black people is totally changed. When the colonizer came to Africa, their main intention was not only to colonize us as a people and take our natural resources, but they also colonized information. And that is why the information that is released for black people about themselves is always that which really demeans them, that which does not really put them in the position that they are. There are many things that he says there. In fact, he also highlights the fact that most of blacks are always taking up names of white people, not understanding their meaning, not understanding where they are coming from, yet they embrace them and they use them here and there. And this is something that he says should change. And Africans and black people must understand that the melanin that they have is a superior thing that they must appreciate and understand that they are superior than others. And I think for some time, given the kind of challenges and persecutions that blacks have gone through, there is need for many black supremacists to come up and really highlight the importance of Africans and the importance of black people within this world. I don't know what you think about this topic. Please, if you're watching us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share. Please also remember to give us your opinion down in the comment section so that we may also understand your perception about the topic there. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.